I don't care what tax bracket you're in. Everyone needs to have a tax-free savings account, and you want to max this out, and you want this to be as big fat as possible. And then in your RRSPs, your registered retirement savings plan. So when you put money in here, you get a tax deduction. Okay, the government is essentially rewarding you for saving for your retirement. They're gonna come to collect their taxes, right? Because you get a tax deduction now. They're gonna want their cut later on. So you want to have lower risk, lower growth in your RSP. Like, thank you for the deduction. I will continue to grow this account tax-free, but I'm going to put my lower risk, lower returning investments in here. So interest-bearing products like bonds, structured notes, low risk investments, also relatively lower growth. And why do we want low growth, slower growth in these RSPs? Because once this gets converted to a registered retirement income fund, when you're 72, government's going to start to collect. They're come knocking at your door, and they're going to be like, you're going to have to take that money out right now. Mandatory minimum withdrawals. Doesn't matter how big, how small your RSPs are. Age is the only contributing factor. It doesn't matter how big the account is, how small it is, how much money you make. I don't need the money, too bad, because the government wants their cut. These mandatory withdrawals, they come out as regular income. This could push your income to higher tax brackets. A common complaint from retirees, it's like, I pay too much taxes. They have massive RRIF withdrawals, and especially for those getting a pension. I'm not even talking about CPP, OAS, like that government pension. If you have a private pension, employer pension, coupled with big fat RRSPs, which is great, you have money, that's great. Once it gets converted to a RRIF and you have these mandatory withdrawals, that's going to push people into higher tax brackets and ultimately reduce old age security, OAS payments in retirement. Okay. And also, if you have big fat RSPs, one of the strategies people tend to implement, they want to implement is, I want to melt down my RSPs. What does that mean? So I just want to, over 5-year period, just withdraw everything from my RSPs. I take the huge tax hit now so that in the next 20 years in retirement, I don't have these RRIF withdrawals. So this is another retirement strategy so that people take the big tax hit in a couple of years upfront so that later on they don't have to be perpetually paying higher taxes throughout retirement. And of course, so they also don't have their OAS payments reduced. A lot of retirement strategies available to manage taxes. We're a very highly taxed country. We want to be able to manage that. And then for non-registered taxable accounts, that includes corporations, you want capital gains, return on capital, and Canadian dividends. Canadian dividends are still taxed, they're taxed better than foreign dividends like US dividends, okay, because we have our dividend tax credit. Again, Canadian government will reward us for investing in Canadian businesses, right? So for non-registered investment accounts, you want capital gains, or anything with a return on capital, any like Canadian dividends, again, taxed more favorably because of the dividend tax credit. You want to place these in your non-registered accounts because everything in here is in taxable territory. Not everything is going to fit perfectly in these accounts because there are contribution limits in your RSPs, in your TFSAs. We don't structure portfolios alone based on just taxes on its own. Okay, asset mix comes first, like how much of equities versus fixed income, and the quality of investments will definitely come before tax efficiency. We don't build portfolios based on tax efficiency alone. I don't care how tax efficient an investment is. If it's a crappy investment, no thank you. Okay, if it's too risky for you, also no thank you.